Yes, and welcome to Vasili's Garden, folks. Fruit tree season, as you know, I've been talking about it for the last few weeks, and we've been pruning out here in the orchard with the groups that have been coming out through the workshop, and we've been enjoying ourselves. Now, one of the steps in the process of pruning a fruit tree and shaping it is tying it down if the tree's out of shape. Now, I've done this one already. I've taken the liberty to tie it down to show you the end result. This is what it looks like. Now, you can use various forms of tying. I'm using soft tie with some temp pegs or hose pegs at the base. You can wedge it with pieces of timber in between. For example, here you can place a bit of timber cut to the right length to actually pry the two pieces apart or the two branches apart. Now you've got to be careful because what you're looking at the moment, and I'm sure many of you picked it, is this. It could split open like that if you're not careful when you don't paint the wounds, and me inclusive. I'm going to take the rope off here or the soft tie here and show you what's happening. So we're going to go back to the basics before we get into shaping the tree to show you the damages caused to trees or wounds when you cut them open and you don't seal them properly, especially the ones that are facing up north. I've done a good job of tying this one up. Give me half an hour. Go make yourself a coffee. Make one for me. No sugars, please. Black. That's how I like it. All right. So, just before we go into looking at this branch here, and it's going to open up on me because I've still got the pressure on the branches. Just before we do that, let me take this apart and show you what the tree looked like. See that? How it's jumped up? Have a look at this branch here. See how it's weighed down? All right. You might think it's okay, the shape, as I let go, but I'll explain to you why I don't want it so high. Just watch the branches as they go up. See that? See this? There we are. So that is sitting now. I'm 6.5 foot tall. So it's just on 6 foot here, 5 foot. So I don't want these trees to grow more than 2 and a bit meters in height. So that's the maximum height I want them to grow. Now, being a plum tree, its notorious habit, I should say, is growing upright. We've cut the middle out of it before, and that's what we've done there, and I'll show you the damage caused, but it's got a habit of growing straight up, and we want it to grow outwards more so, so we've got to constantly prune it and shape it, and that's why we're tying it down. But before we go into the tying down again and explain to you what you've got to do as you're tying it, because there is a little bit of a process involved, so you don't split the trunk like I have there, but that's only because, well, one of the main reasons is because I didn't paint it earlier in the season, or when I cut that one. This isn't a fresh cut, by the way, folks. This is an old cut, and if you want to see the moisture getting in, seeping in, see the blackening of the timber inside there. So we've got white timber on the bottom half, but it's blackened up just inside there. I'll open it up carefully. See how it's seeped in? That's caused a weak stress point. That's why it's split open so easily in the middle. Now, if I close it, you'll see that there is a little bit of a hole there. And moisture got in through there. And over time with the rain, you can see a little bit of blackening there. It started to peel off, so the cambium layer was getting affected as well. Now, that has still got plenty of sap flow. Let me explain this. On this side here, the cambium layer is still intact. So there's plenty of sap flow to run through this branch. But the problem we have here is that long term, if we're to allow this branch to grow big and chunky like that, approximately what it'll get to, all the way across with all the weight it has, that weak stress point here will open up again. You can do a couple of things. You can drive a nail through the middle of it or a bolt and bolt it together, put some strapping around it, but the problem is it's going to grow, and as it swells out, it's going to start to cut into it anyway. So that's a concern I have with this one here. For the short term, I'm going to work with it. What I want to do is try and glue the branch that I cut off before down here. See this branch here? There used to be a branch. I cut it off. I'm not happy. I want it to grow back. So now I'm going to have to try and get this lower branch to grow out again and replace this one long term, because that is not going to survive long term. But put that aside, what's happened there is what you got to do over here. This is the stuff I'm talking about. This is one we painted a couple of days ago, just after we pruned it, to show you how that you've got to seal these wounds. Hydrated lime is what I've done on this, right? So there was a wound there, there was an open cut there, there's a cut here, there are cuts everywhere. These are all the branches that we removed. You can see them on the ground. They're quite large, some of them in fact. And that's what we've taken out so we can open up the middle of the tree. You don't have to use hydrated lime. You can use tree stack. You can use a water-based paint if you like. They will all work to some extent and do a great job, as does hydrated lime. It's cheapest form in actual fact for what you get. It's just a powder you mix with water and apply it. So make sure you seal the branches, because if you are going to be opening up the vase or creating that open vase shape like I've done there, that looks like a good tree there now. That's a good size there at the moment. And you can probably say in hindsight, that's probably the best shape that I've got here in the orchard by leaving this branch in place. But still, when you make a cut like this, you can see we've had 1 cut, 2 cuts, 3 cuts. Our new growth's going to come from here somewhere. We may get some shoots from the bottom here as well, but most of the growth will come from this point here, reaching up here. So once it gets to this point, what do? We don't want it to go any higher. We're going to be constantly cutting it there. If we can arch it out a bit like this, and what I've done is use some string or soft tie, when it comes to finding out where the stress point is on the branch, not the split, that split there, we know what's happened. Moisture got in, caused it to crack open. So it's caused the actual fibers or the layers of the bark inside to pull apart, the wood that is, and then we've got that damage happening. So that's going to be fixed. But when you're pulling down on a branch, if you're going to tie it on a tip, this is what it'll look like. Right, so you want to open it up, almost horizontal, but that's got an arch over there where you can see the branch is still high. If I bring it at this point, that's not too bad. That's not a bad spot to tie it. I chose at this level here so that I get the whole branch leaning out for me, not just on the tip. You can tie the tip as well, and it's really up to you. It's like bonsaiing. Rather than putting wire around it all the way down and twisting the branches like this and that, you basically find a good couple of good strong points where you can anchor it, grab it down, use your fingers, feel what it feels like, listen for the cracking noise, because if it does crack, you know you're in trouble. So tie there, get your peg, as you can see here, measure it out, because I already did that before. I should have shown you this as well. So I'm just measuring it approximately where I want it. So when I push it down into the ground, it'll be about there. So at that point, just a little knot. I'm just doing a little loop like that for now. And hold on to the branch as you pull it, so you're not putting too much pressure on your string as you're pulling it down. And there we are. Not as low as I had it before. I can go further out actually. There. So that's the first one. And we do the same thing all the way around. How much you want to arch it down or weigh it down is up to you. It's how much open of a vase shape you want to create at the end of the day. So this one's going here. I've got 2 points on this one. One here and this branch as well. So this, for example, is a perfect example. If I tied it too high, I've got this overarching effect going on there, which is not what I want. You can try and pull it outwards. You can put it there or here, which is a good spot. You can feel it where it works comfortably. So you find the center point of gravity, I suppose, or cantilever, so that it doesn't have an arch going into it when you're pulling it down. Peg's already there. So let's just tie this in place as well. It's important to keep your trees as low as possible, especially for harvesting, because as we get older, folks, it's a little bit harder to get up there and climb on the ladders and harvest fruit, unless you've got grandchildren. My one's too young still. She barely can walk. Well, she can't walk. She's only 6 weeks. Can't wait. So this is what you got to do now with this thing here in the middle. Big concern. Look at that. Oh, God, the more I touch it, the more I've got to cut it off. I'm annoyed. Have a look now. The sun's dropped. We've got better lighting here for you folks. Can you see that? Look at that dye back in there. It's already creeping in. So realistically, I've got to cut this off completely. But well, the longer I wait, the worse it's going to be. So my bad. We're going to have to sacrifice it now. And I've got to go and get the hydrated lime and paint it up. So this is no good there. Now we're going to have to fill this in. You can see it's already gone into there. I'm going to have to fill this in a lot with the hydrated lime. So push it in there, let it seep inside there. It'll seal it all off, stop it from getting any worse, and dehydrate it as well, because it's like an antiseptic, so it'll stop the the disease going through there, or any disease from developing. So got to seal this over. Make sure you do the same with your trees. Yeah, we lost a branch, but as we know, plum trees, they jump back with a vengeance, so we're going to get lots of new branches coming up and we can train it. Now, it is fruit tree season planting, so go down to your local garden centres, find yourself the fruit trees you want. It can be ornamental as well, obviously, folks. It's not just about fruit trees, but for me it is, because I love to eat my fruit off the trees, and get them from young. And that's so important, as you can just see what's happened here, to train them from young, to prune them from young. Work out what shape you want. Ask your nursery person there what sort of tree that you're looking for. Explain it to them and what shape you want to try and create, because you've got central leaders, you've got an open vase shape, you've got espalier forms you can do a cordon as well, you can do pleaching and what do they call it, a standardized one, which is like a ball at the top. At the end of the day, whatever shape you want, ask them to help you and shape the tree from young. So get a prune as soon as you buy it to get it into the ground, and start training it like this with strings and a little bit of timber if you can, whichever way is easier for you, so you can create the right shape for young before it gets too hard and you're working with a lot of force and could cause a bit of damage to the tree. So vital to start from young, as we're going to work some of these trees out. And at the end of the day, if you haven't done it and you've already got 3 to 5 year old trees or even older trees, you can cut them back down hard and allow some new sprouts to come through and start reshaping again. So you lose a cycle of fruiting and all that, but at the end of the day, you gain a better shaped tree and longevity in the tree's health and production as well. And if you want to learn more about fruit tree pruning and shaping, and come and see this in real time or real life on how it's happened and what's going on here, we've only got a handful of spots left on our fruit tree workshops. That's on the 13th, 20th and 22nd of this month. So book your seats there. Craig will be here with us demonstrating some grafting techniques as well as everything else you want to learn about fruit trees. Plus we got our garden workshops as well. So prepare yourself for spring planting, which is what I'm holding in August, all on our website, vasilisgarden.com, for everything you need every day. From me, Vasili, Maresi.